Hello again, everybody. Welcome to yet another edition of Journey Through Sports and Life. Great to have you along as we move forward with the football season coming up. That's right. Training camp is just around the corner, and of course, the brand new NFL season starts in September, and we're delighted to have you on board because we're going to talk to one of the greatest tackles in the history of the entire league. That's right. Over 100 years, 1920, and here we are in 2024. He was one of the greatest. We're talking about Randy White, number 54, huh? You remember him well. I know you do.
Yes, I was covering the team for a few years when Randy was playing with the Cowboys.
Well, I'm Scott Murray. This is Marnie. This is Marjorie, and we're delighted to welcome you as well as number 54 All-American and member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. We're talking about Randy White. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. Glad to be here today.
Well, you ready to play a little football today?
Am I ready? I might be ready to watch a little bit, but I don't think I'm ready to play.
I'll hear you.
I need a little more conditioning.
Well, I know these two young ladies have all kinds of questions, as do I, Randy, but let's just start it off by saying, as you look back in your career, what was the thing that you were proudest of? You did so many great things, a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, one of the greatest tackles in the history of the game. I mean, really.
Well, one of the things that I value is I was able to play on a team that won a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think you played in 3, didn't you?
We played in 3.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I was a rookie in 1975. We lost to the Steelers.
Right.
And so when you're a rookie, you don't really realize what the Super Bowl really means.
Yeah.
And so having an opportunity to go back and play again and win the Super Bowl and have a Super Bowl ring and share that with with your teammates.
Right.
And Harvey and I were chosen co-MVPs in that game.
And I might add here, the only time in the history of the Super Bowl, as we approached 60 Super Bowls over the years, that was Super Bowl 12 when you beat the Denver Broncos, right?
Super Bowl 12.
Yeah, and you were the only 2 people that ever shared the MVP award in a Super Bowl. That's incredible.
Harvey Martin.
But winning the Super Bowl was more valuable to me than the most valuable player thing was great. Roger Staubach, Robert Newhouse threw a pass to Golden Richards for a touchdown. I mean, we had a lot of guys that played great. Ed, Harvey, but winning a Super Bowl would have to be my biggest thing I think of the most.
Understandable.
Being in the Hall of Fame is a great personal honor. But that, I say, is just a reflection of the teams I played on, the guys I played with, great players, great people. And, without them, I don't think I'd get to rise to that Hall of Fame thing.
Well, always being as humble as you are, I understand. But, I mean, let's face it, you were one of the greatest. And I'm sure being a member of a winning football team, a Super Bowl champion, something the 3 of us will never be a part of, huh?
Right.
But,
we've covered a lot of them, but we've never been on the
You never tried out for it, so, not
Is it too late for me? I want to try. I still want to try.
There you go. And, of course, her grandfather was the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, and her mother, in the history of the entire league, only woman that's ever been a general manager. So, I mean, she's got some history there, but she's still waiting for that Super Bowl ring, right?
Yeah, well, it didn't happen in my grandfather's time, but we did, our Super Bowl did.
That's right. The Eagles did get one, didn't they?
Well, yeah, but I would say that during my grandfather's time as owner, and not to bring up probably some unpleasant memories for the Cowboys, was the 1980 NFC Championship game That was a pretty epic game if you're a Philadelphia Eagle fan.
For sure.
If you're an Eagle fan, I grew up 30 minutes from Philadelphia. I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware. And when we played the Eagles, I used to have to get like 50 to 100 tickets for my family so they didn't have to fight their way in and out of that Veteran Stadium. Yeah. I mean, Eagle fans are very enthusiastic fans. I'll put it that way.
That's a kind way of putting it.
That is very kind.
Yeah, I still hear your accent a little bit, Randy. So it's really more of an I than an E when you talk about the Eagles. The real fans say it with an I. It's an Eagle. You're an Eagle fan. That's the accent. The Eagles.
Eagles?
The Eagles.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah.
I must have missed that growing up.
So,
Eagles.
Randy, I got to ask you this. How did you get your nickname, and did you like it, the Manster?
The Manster, I never minded it. You know, I mean, it was because on the field I was not nice, and then off the field I was a regular person. I was trying to be nice, and
he was.
So they said half man, half monster.
Right. You were very good to me when I was covering the team, so I would have called you the gentlemanster.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, we had a woman in the locker room. That was an experience in itself, because
it was new in the
that's
80s.
when it all began, wasn't it? 1986 was her first year with the Cowboys, and
I remember Coach Landry told us, we have a woman in the locker room, and we got to behave ourselves. I just put it that way.
Yeah, and you did. Everybody did.
You probably got treated better than anybody else did that. At that time.
Oh, absolutely.
I think I did.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You got special treatment.
Yeah, I actually think I did. Yeah, I'll have to admit to that.
I know you did.
But I do remember Everson Walls. He said he was thrilled that there was a woman beat writer because the Cowboys were now in the 80s. That was the thing that brought you into the new decade.
Oh, okay.
Well, I tell you
Good
what.
for Everson.
Yeah. Well, now it's as common as getting up in the morning to see a woman on the sidelines or a woman doing interviews for sports. Doesn't matter if it's baseball, football, basketball, hockey. NASCAR was on over the weekend. My gosh, there are women everywhere.
Well, and when I see the women on television,
doing the sports,
I think they try harder than the men, and they have more information a lot of times than you get out of the regular commentators, because they're trying harder to let everybody know, hey, we know about this sport, right? We understand it. We may not have played it, but we understand it and understand the psychology and all the things that go with it. So
that's right.
I enjoy listening to the perspective of women when I watch a football game. It doesn't bother me.
I've never heard anybody say that, but I totally agree with you. You are absolutely right. It's true.
It's interesting. I can't even tell you how many times I wrote a story and guys would come up to me and said, I never looked at it from that perspective. It is.
That's a great
interesting
point.
that you say that.
Yeah, for sure.
So okay, the NFL teams travel to Europe and they go to Japan and they go all over the place. You were on the first Cowboys team that went abroad to play that preseason game against the Bears in 1986. Went to London. We've never really had a guest that could talk to us about this, but
that's right. That's the year after the Walter Payton and the Bears won the
85 Super Bowl. But what's it like on the body traveling a great distance like that, and even though it might have been a great experience playing in Wembley Stadium, is this something that the NFL should continue to do, or it's as the player's perspective? How do you look at that?
Well, from a player's perspective, now, if I would do it today at 71, I would say no. But when I was 25 or 26 years old, I'd fly around the world and play football and come back and play another one. It wouldn't bother me. So at that point in time, I thought it was interesting because I'd never been anywhere out of the country.
Oh, okay, good.
And we got to see them guys wear them funny hats at the stadium and all. It was a pretty cool experience, really.
I covered that game. And
you go up and talk to them and they just stand there and act like they're not doing it. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, you can't let, they're not allowed to laugh. They're not allowed to.
They don't have any fun.
Engage. No.
That's point well taken. Point well taken.
Well, even at 71, if they were offering you these millions, would you go?
No.
The millions they're offering today?
I'm not going. No, I'm not going. No.
Marnie, jump on board.
Well, all right. So we talked about some of the high points of your career. And when I realized like a lot of professional athletes or coaches, they usually have like one moment that was like, I wish I could get a rewind or a redo. Is there a moment for you in your career where you could, if you could do something differently, would you have done it or not?
I got a lot of them.
You do?
Where do you want me to start?
I don't know. Maybe just one.
One, one that sticks out in my mind.
And then another good one if it sticks out too.
Yes, whatever you're comfortable with, but it's always
No, I'm not comfortable with it. I don't like to tell it, but I'll tell it because you asked me.
Okay,
All right,
great.
well, good. Well, thank you.
I want people to forget. You remember when Jackie Smith dropped the ball in the end zone?
Yep.
Everybody blamed him for losing the game.
Yep.
Well, I fumbled a kickoff in that game, and Pittsburgh recovered it, and they scored a touchdown on that next drive. So I wasn't glad that Jackie dropped the pass, but it didn't hurt my feelings because they didn't blame me for losing the game. They blamed him. Mm-hmm. But that's one play I wish I could have back.
Was that, that Jackie Smith, was that 70, 79? I'm trying to think when that was. I didn't remember that you dropped it. I had no idea.
Well, I'm glad you forgot, Scott.
No, I forgot that.
I forgot
So
too.
then your plan worked out beautifully that people did not remember.
Well, I went back. I picked the ball up, and Mike Ditka had put me back in the wedge.
Right.
And Jarella squib kicked the ball to me, and I picked it up from my high school running back days, and I had a broken thumb, and I switched it from my left hand to my right hand where I had the cast. I took the cast off and had that. Anyway, and you know who it was that hit me for the Steelers that made me fumble the ball?
Who was that?
And when I see him, he always brings it up.
Who's that?
Tony Dungy.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. He was a
He's the
linebacker, a backup linebacker on that team, and he's the one that hit me when I
No
fumbled
kidding.
that stupid ball. Yeah.
So how long did it take for you when he brought it up to kind of laugh about it, or does it still sting that much?
He didn't bring it up. I brought it up.
Oh, okay. Because
I said, I remember you. And then he smiled, and then he wanted, he was a nice guy.
Yeah,
so you
yeah,
talked
he is.
about it.
Right.
wow. And what did Tom Landry do? Remember his reaction to the fumble?
We never talked about that
Oh,
one.
okay. Okay.
That's funny.
Right.
Well, let's go back in the early days. You came out of University of Maryland, All-American. My gosh, who is this guy? Oh, the Dallas Cowboys going to get Randy White. Everybody knew who you were anyway if they watched college football because they thought, they saw the incredible career and who you were and what you were all about.
Right.
So that was a real positive. And the Cowboys were playing some, in up to 74 had not really done a lot. They were in the Super Bowl in 70, the 71 season in 72, just before the Miami Dolphins had that undefeated season, the only one to this day. And yet I just wondered, when you came and you saw the team that you were hooking up with, and then in 76, the next year, Tony Dorsett's the #1 draft pick, and I mean, suddenly these Dallas Cowboys are something, and you and the Steelers really were the toast of the NFL during the 70s, the decade of the 70s. Going to all those Super Bowls, winning a couple, Super Bowl VI, Super Bowl XII. I just wonder, what was that like to all of a sudden join a team like that that's getting this national notoriety? It was shortly after you won Super Bowl 78, the one in 78, that you became America's team.
Yeah.
So the decade of the 70s really kind of set the tone for who the Cowboys were.
Well, for me, I was fighting for my life because they wanted me to play middle linebacker when they drafted me.
Right.
And the flex defense was not working out real well for me. Yep. And Coach Landry actually called me in to his office, and he asked me, he said, Randy, what do you think about moving to defensive tackle? And I remember I told him, I said, Coach, I said, I just want to play and help this team win. I said, whatever you want to put me, I just want to play somewhere. And so he put me there. But my rookie year, we had 12 rookies make the team.
Wow.
They called us the Dirty Dozen.
I remember that.
And so the Cowboys, my first year there, we were supposed to not even make the playoffs, from all the prognosticators. And, we end up going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
And they always said that group of 12 rookies brought a burst of enthusiasm to the veterans that kind of helped us generate us all and change the attitude of that football team and helped us get back to the Super Bowl. And so that was my memory of my first year. But I was scrambling my first couple years because I wanted to play football, and I was in the middle linebacker spot, and then they let me rush the passer sometimes, and then I finally got to the right tackle, and things worked out there for me. But really, I'm thinking, well, if I don't make it here, where am I going to go? And the Cowboys could have drafted Walter Payton with the number 2 pick in the draft that year. And I said, well, if I don't make it, they're going to say what a bust he was. They should have took Walter Payton. But, the next year they got Tony Dorsett.
So that worked out.
Yeah.
But that was...
and then you worked with a great line. I mean, your career, you had up and down the line.
I
It
had
was
Ed,
incredible.
Harvey, Jethro Pugh, Larry Cole. Then John Dutton came in there. Don Smerick was there for 8-9 years. So we always had a pretty good defensive line.
Yeah. Something, we don't see with consistency now with the team.
And we just recently lost Don Smerick. How sad was that?
No, it was not fun. Smirky's a good friend of mine, and we spent a lot of time together. So him passing was no fun.
Kind of tough.
Yeah, it was,
He's only 65, 66.
He was 66.
66. Yeah,
He
that's
was
what I thought.
66 years old.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
So how long did it take you to, did you miss football right away when you retired, or did you, and go through a period of time where you really missed it, or were you ready and my career is over and now I'm doing something else?
No. I love football. And I had planned on staying and pursuing a coaching career.
Oh, you had?
I talked to Coach Landry. My last 2 years, I had a bad neck, and I knew it was coming to an end. And I talked to Coach Schneider, and he told me, he said, Randy, you got a job here as long as I got a job. And then, the ownership changed. He got fired. They brought in all their own people. Now, if I'd have called Mike Ditka or Dan Reeves, I probably could have went to another city and got a job in coaching had I really wanted to do it. But I like Dallas. I like staying in Dallas. So, but it was an adjustment for me.
Well, that's interesting. For some reason, all these years that I've known you, since I had no idea that you really wanted to coach that much.
Oh yeah,
and didn't know that story about because Jerry Jones buys the team and that was it for Coach Landry and obviously now for you.
Well,
Isn't that something?
that was the end of my career as far as
as a player.
Yeah,
as a player. But I didn't know that you had the chance to
aspirations to coach.
Jimmy had his own coaching staff.
Yeah, which makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah,
but I just didn't know that you were going to, Coach Landry continued on.
Yeah, if Coach Landry had continued, I would have pursued a coaching career.
Interesting.
And Ernie Stautner, my coach, Ernie told me, he said, Randy, you're going to reach a point in your career, because Ernie and I were good friends. We had kind of a special relationship.
Right.
And he told me, you're going to think that you can still play. And you're going to be missing a beat. And I told him, I said, well, Coach, if I ever, when I reach that point, I want you to tell me.
Right.
So when the time came, the ownership changed and everything, I called Ernie and we went fishing. And I remember I looked at Ernie, I said, I'm not a quitter, Ernie. I said, but I'm going to retire. And he said, that's the right thing to do.
Did he really?
And we finished our case of Miller Lite beer and went on home.
Wow.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
But Ernie told me that, and he followed through with it.
Yeah.
So
he was a good guy.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Great
And
guy.
you never
great
had-
coach.
Yeah,
Great
he
friend.
was.
Yeah.
In
He
fact,
been through everything on the field and off the field that I went through. So I always had somebody there.
Yeah.
He wouldn't, but when you started moving the wrong way, he'd say, hey,
He'd let you know.
he'd let you know. Yes. he
well,
would.
here's another side of Ernie. So I was pregnant during the 1988 season with my first child.
Right.
And I was like, I delivered in February. So now, it's December. I was pretty good size. And you remember the home interview room. Well, there would be crowds of reporters in the interview room. And all of a sudden, every home game, I never expected it, but it happened every time. Ernie Stautner would appear. He'd come over to the interview room. He'd look at me and he's, come on, Marjorie, follow me. And he would clear like the crowd. It was like the Red Sea. He parted the crowd and he'd yell, pregnant woman coming through. And he would take me all the way to the front so that I could be right there with Landry. He's like, I don't want anybody elbowing you, and all this kind of thing. And so when you said I probably got special treatment, well, that was one of them. Yeah. And Ernie, he just did it. He just showed up after every game.
Yeah, Ernie was a great guy. Mm-hmm. Great coach, great friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was
very thoughtful.
He was a special guy in my life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Really was.
Mm-hmm. So you never thought after you knew you weren't going to be coaching, you didn't have second thoughts about that?
No. Mm-hmm. No, once I was gone, I was gone. I did a pregame show on Channel 11 for about 14 years, which kind of kept my feet in the game. You know, it's a tough transition. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, I miss it to this day sometimes. You miss Sundays. You miss the camaraderie of all the guys you see every day. You have somebody tell you where to go, what to do, what time to be there. Yeah. Then all of a sudden you wake up one day and that's all gone. And, you can go fishing just so many times and then you got to think of something else. So I said, when I retire, I'm going fishing every day from now on.
Yeah.
Well, that gets old after a while too. So.
Well, I'm sure Marnie has something. I just want to follow up real quickly though. Okay. So you brought up going fishing. When you sat out that contract and you said gone fishing, so I always, you mention it now. I remember Randy and his fishing. How hard must that have been? You knew you had to do that because of the contract, but if you wanted to be at training camp and you wanted to play football, how hard is it when a player sits out, and for you in particular?
For me, it was terrible. It was tough.
Yeah.
I had an agent. The guy's name was Howard Slusher.
Oh, I remember Howard.
Him. I mean, he was the bad guy in the NFL. I mean, all the owners didn't like him because he was a player's guy. And Howard kept calling me up. He says, I can't tell you what he really said, but he said, Randy, you're a chicken. Randy, you're a chicken. Randy, you're a chicken. Up to the last night, I had all my bags packed. And then I went and I hooked my boat up. I put my weights in the back of my truck. And I drove to East Texas that next day, and I didn't go to training camp. Oh, that was a tough thing to do. And I stayed out of camp. I went to Cattle Creek Ranch down in East Texas, down outside of Athens. And I stayed down there, and I was in Mount Pleasant, Texas, sitting in a pasture so I could get reception of the last preseason game in Texas Stadium. This is a true story. And I'm sitting there thinking, what am I doing here? I'm a football player. I'm not a fisherman full time, but I went fishing every day. And the next day they called me. I drove to Dallas, signed a contract, and was back in the locker room. It happened that quick. Just bam, bam, bam.
Isn't that something?
But I missed every preseason game.
Yeah.
And you think that wasn't hard for me. That was hard for me not to, say, okay, I'm coming in. But I didn't. I just said, no, I made this decision. Now I'm going to stick with it.
Wow.
And it worked out.
Yeah,
they ended up paying me more money than I asked for. I mean, so I swear to God they did. So it was a great deal.
But I can feel the passion still, now. So that's why I figured it had to have been very difficult.
I love football.
Yeah.
Still.
You'll have passion till he's upstairs. Yeah.
Do you still dream of it? Like do you still go to sleep and think of plays and wake up and feel like you just were in the game?
Now?
Yeah.
Not so much now. I don't. But if I let myself, I would. But I just watch the games now, and I try to stay away from it because it's a different game. I don't know what's right and what's wrong, but it's different. Yeah. It's a different game than when I played, and but I enjoy watching it.
So you grew up.
They don't let each other hit each other.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably hard to kind of watch that, knowing what you did, or could you have played it with it this way?
Well, it's still football, but it's just they change it to make the game a little safer. I don't know how you can play football. People don't go to the NASCAR races to watch them going around in a circle.
Right.
They want to see the wreck, right?
Yeah, exactly. The same with hockey. They want to see the fight.
Football,
Yeah.
see collisions,
Yes.
right? So they want to see 320-pound guys run into each other. That's what they want to see. But
When you were a kid growing up, did you have heroes that? Or first of all, maybe the better question is, how old were you when you finally said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life? I want to be a professional football player. And just your thoughts on players that you might have looked up to that were idols of yours. Do you have anybody like that or no?
no, I really didn't.
Okay.
If there was anybody, there was a guy that played for the Packers, Ray Nitschke.
Oh yeah, Ray Nitschke,
I
sure.
used to watch Nitschke.
Okay.
Because he's ball-headed and he had the
The
glasses and
Yeah, you got it.
But I used to look at the football cards to see how big the guys were, to see whether I was getting big enough.
Oh.
But my favorite sport growing up was baseball. I was better at baseball than I was at football. And you probably know who Peanuts Lowry is. Maybe you don't because you're too young.
Yeah.
But he was for the Philadelphia Phillies. And after my last high school game, Peanuts Lowry drove down from Philly and offered me $30,000 to sign with the Phillies.
Are you serious?
Oh, Sarah, dead serious.
And how old were you?
I was senior in high school.
17.
You're kidding.
I was senior in high school.
What position were you?
I played first base. I could hit.
No kidding.
I batted over 500 for
So
3
you're what?
years.
You're 17, 18
No
years
way.
old.
Yeah.
500 for 3 years? You maintained
Yes.
that?
Yes. I was a
Wow.
good. Now, I'll brag about baseball because I was a good baseball player.
So then how tempted
yeah.
were you
And
to
I
do
was
that?
going to take the offer because my dad was a butcher, earned $10,000 a year cutting meat down there in Wilmington, $30,000. I thought, whoa, this is more money than I'll ever get in my life. And my dad said, he's going to college and play football. He's not playing baseball.
No kidding.
And that was the end of my baseball career.
Wow.
Did you want to play baseball
Yes, I wanted to play.
instead of football?
Yeah.
Even in college, would you have wanted to play baseball? Did you pursue anything
Well,
like that?
I thought about it, but I had to donate so much time to football. I had never lifted a weight till I went to school at Maryland. And then one of my strengths, I guess, is once I make my mind up, I'm going to do something, I can do it. But, I started lifting weights and I got into all that. So I really didn't have time to get into the baseball.
To the baseball. Mm-hmm.
But yes, I thought about it. I used
Wow.
to think I'm better than any of these guys they got out there. But
Well, he probably was.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
I know Staubach. Staubach, I once asked him and Troy, and both of them said if we hadn't played football, they both said they'd played baseball.
Baseball. Well, my dad was a pitcher in college. He loved baseball. I don't know if you remember this, but my first year covering the Cowboys training camp, I told you guys, you were one of them, that I loved baseball. And everybody told me to bring my mitt to training camp. So I took my baseball mitt, and after practice, a whole bunch of guys, I would be the only female in the circle and the only reporter. And we'd get in a big circle and everybody had their mitts and we'd play catch for a little while. And you were one of them.
was I one of them?
You were.
Unbelievable.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. Once I made my mind up that I was going to play football, that's what I did.
Yeah.
But baseball was my favorite sport.
Yeah.
Think of it this way: football, you got to put these pads on. You got to get mad every day. You got to fight with people every day. You're grabbing and scrapping and fighting with somebody. You got to be mean, right? Baseball, you put the uniform on. You go out there, you hit the ball around, you kid, you talk. I say, baseball's a lot more fun than getting practice football. You got to practice. Football's like practicing getting hit in the head with a hammer. You don't have to practice it. It hurts, but they make you practice it. So,
Right.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. No,
That's
I
hilarious.
love baseball too. What a different path, that your father, why was he so adamant that you play football? Was it more he wanted you to go to college and you're going to play football because that's going to be the scholarship? Or did he want you playing football, period?
Well, he came home from the war. He was a paratrooper, Second World War, jumped at the Battle of the Bulge. He was
Wow.
a Screaming Eagle, 101st Airborne.
No kidding.
Yeah. went to Westchester State Teachers College and played for a guy named Glenn Killinger. And he played all the way up to his senior year, broke his collarbone in practice, and he was going to be a school teacher. That's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Broke his collarbone, went home, and went to work.
Oh.
And I always think he wanted his kid to go to college and play football or whatever opportunity I had.
Right.
Yeah.
But he wanted me to go to college. So that's
That was
why I
more
did
where
it.
it came.
Yeah.
Was he around when you went into the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
No, he wasn't around, but he was around in 1977 when we won the Super Bowl.
Okay, what do you think of that?
Oh, he was there at the party and the whole deal. Him and my mom. It was a great
And
experience.
you're the MVP for Pete's sake?
Yeah.
Oh, you must have been elated.
Oh, talk about proud, huh?
Well, my first year in the Super Bowl, one of the highlights of that, we lost.
Right.
But after the game, Bob Brunick played the guitar. And we would always play Willie Nelson songs. Well, Willie was at that after party, Jerry Jeff Walker and Jimmy Buffett.
Oh, what
And I
a
got a
great
picture
group.
singing Up Against the Wall.
serious?
Redneck
Oh, my
Mother.
gosh.
Yeah, I sang on stage with them guys after the game. You'd have thought we won the game
Yeah,
after
it
that.
sounds like.
And we partied all night in Miami. Then we came home, and Willie had a place down there on Greenville and Lovers called Willie Nelson's Whiskey River.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Oh, yes.
We went in there and partied all night there.
Oh, my gosh.
That's hilarious.
Wow. Wow. What a wonderful memory.
I know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stories.
So did Ernie Stautner find out you were partying after a loss? What would
Yeah,
he
there
do
you go.
about that?
He never showed up, but if he'd have known it, he'd have probably showed up and hung out with us for a while.
Wow. What a great story. Yeah.
All right. So, Randy, can you tell us about some of the art that you have on your arms?
Well, which one you want to know about?
Oh, well, let's see. How about, I think there's an eagle, maybe?
That is the Screaming Eagles, the 101st Airborne. Most of these are in a tribute to my dad.
Oh.
Military tattoos.
Because you
Yeah,
got
yeah.
those after your football playing career. You got them after your career. I never
Yes.
had known.
Yeah,
noticed
when I
it.
retired and had a motorcycle and a ponytail and riding around, and got bored. I got some tattoos. But this one, these arrows, that's a cross. These arrows represent good and bad. This is how I keep myself out of trouble in my old age. This one, if I think about doing something wrong, I look at this one and I go, no, you want to do this one. So that's
that's
what
great.
that's what that means.
That's
Oh,
great.
wow.
That's great.
That's what that means.
Oh, very cool.
So,
So-
there's
What service was your
There's a
dad
white
in?
buffalo
Air
right
Force?
there.
Was your dad in the Air Force?
Army,
Army. Okay.
101st Airborne.
Oh, the 101st Airborne. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So-
Jumped out of planes.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
always said I was going to jump out of a plane. He did it at night with people shooting at him.
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
And I always said, I'm going to jump out of a plane.
But to this day, not yet.
I'm scared to death. I ain't never going to jump out of a plane unless I have to.
You must have been very close. I mean, you to have these tattoos that represent different times in your father's life.
Yeah, on behalf of your dad.
How was that relationship fostered?
You know what? My dad was always there because he didn't have a dad that was there. But he was raised by his aunts and uncles and whoever. So we didn't have much, but I did growing up, I did have a dad that supported us. He would close a butcher shop down early to come to a basketball game or a football game or a baseball game. He never missed a thing. He was
Wow,
always
that's
there.
nice.
And he was a great dad. Tough. Now, tough. I mean, I could tell you some stuff I'm not going to. But I mean, he said, if you're going to do it halfway, don't do it at all.
Yeah.
The fact that you won,
do it right.
the fact that you wanted to play baseball, and he said, no, you're going to college, get an education, and play football.
Yeah.
You know, when you were telling me that, telling us that story, I was thinking to myself, I wonder how many kids would have told their father to hit the road and, showed them their IQ with their middle finger. You know, I mean, that's good for you. Good for you to have your respect for that. Your dad was so committed to knowing what he thought would be best for you.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you're talking about these tattoos. Now, I have a couple Indian tattoos.
Oh.
Because my grandmother, her mother was a pure-blooded Pequot Indian.
Oh, wow.
No kidding.
Oh, okay.
And I was supposed to go to California with the chief of the Pequot Indians this year. And
This year here in
this
2024?
year, he was going to give me my certificate that shows that I'm a full-blooded, my grandmother's mother was a pure-blooded
No kidding.
Pequot Indian. So I'm going to do it when he comes to Texas. He's going to be in Texas later this year. So that's something in my life that I'm excited about
Oh,
right
yes. Oh,
is-
and how well did you know your grandmother?
Huh?
How well did you know her?
My grandmother?
Was this your grandmother? You said your
It's
mother's
my grandmother's mother.
Oh,
I didn't know
okay.
her.
So you wouldn't have known her. Uh-huh.
And,
Okay.
you know, they didn't want to tell us we had part Indian in us. They wanted to keep that quiet, right? Because that was not a good thing to be an Indian, I guess. And so I'm proud of it. And I'm glad that I'm going to finally
Yeah, that,
Get that certificate.
be able to say, hey, I am an Indian.
Yeah.
Do they
yeah.
now? Don't they have? I think often tribes have their own language. Do they have their own Indian language? Do you know?
They
anything?
may. I'm not that familiar with them, but I hope to get that way
Yeah.
and get involved with the tribe. And
Wow.
now, is this a big event that they have when they come to town to do that, or? I'm just thinking I can
forget-
see.
Yeah. Are we going to be
Scott,
there?
Well, I can just see
for
the
big
local media being
celebration?
all over this,
I forget
Randy.
the event. I forget the event that they have it every year.
You got to let me know when that is. Give me a couple weeks' notice. I'll get a hold of the media so they can cover that.
I will.
You know, Reed.
Oh, really?
Reed
Yeah,
that'd be
Blankenship, who
terrific,
plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's Indian too. He's part Indian.
Who's that?
Reed Blankenship, who plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's half Indian.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got a
half
very
Indian.
very Native American Indian heritage, deep American Indian heritage also. So I bet that there's probably a bunch of people that are, currently playing in the NFL or have played that have some American
And might not
heritage.
I
realize
think
it.
it's cool, man.
Yeah,
I'm,
it is.
I'm
It is.
proud
Oh, yeah,
of it.
it's very
really
cool.
interesting. All right, so tell us about your immediate family now and what they're doing or you're doing, things like
Well,
that.
I have a daughter and two grandkids, a 12-year-old and a 5-year-old. Their dad died. Anyway, that's another story, but they live with me. So you want to talk about change your life a little bit. You
So
can,
your daughter and the two grandchildren live with you.
yes.
Wow.
Yes,
How
I
long
have
has that been?
I have a barn dominium where I live.
Oh, okay.
My daughter and the baby live there.
In the barn dominium.
Barn dominium.
Oh, I love that name.
That's great. Barn dominium. I love
Barn
it.
dominium. And the 12-year-old lives with my wife and I. And so that's what's going on with that part of my life.
Wow.
And until you got two grandkids, I got the little one. She was helping me earlier today pick up a stump that we pulled out of the ground yesterday. She's a little worker. Now, Ethan, he tries to hide. He don't want to work. He tries to hide. He's in there playing the computer and doing all that stuff, whatever these 12-year-olds do.
That's hilarious.
Does he
No, it's
show any
true.
interest in football? Or does he show any athletic interests?
Last year, he played football. I told him I didn't want him to play. I told him, hey, play baseball, play basketball. I don't want you to play football. And he came to me and he said, Papa, I'm going to play football. I said, okay, if you want to, play. And so he played football, and I wasn't sure he's going to have that. I got to be careful, right? Because I got to remember back. I don't remember back when I was 12. So, and he's a nice kid, and and I kind of tell him, I said, hey man, you got to turn it on. You got to have this mean streak in you, right? And I was at the Hall of Fame last year, and I was sitting with Mike Singletary. And I said, Mike, I said, I had Ethan with me. I said, Mike, I said, could you talk to my grandson and try to get him a little meaner? And he said, Randy, how old is he? I said, he was 11. I said, he's 11. He said, when I was 11, they told me I needed to get meaner too. So in other words, he said, hey, leave the kid alone.
Yeah.
He's only 11 years old.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Oh, wow.
It'll come and it'll come.
And he's well aware of your legacy in football, I would take it.
Oh, yes. Last year he went to the Hall of Fame with me. And a friend of mine, when I was doing something, and his wife took him, but they took him to the pro shop up there.
Yeah.
And they bought a bunch of football cards. Oh, they created a monster. He bring me cards, a picture of Roger Staubach. He goes, Papa, was this guy any good? I said, Ethan, I said, that's Roger Staubach. That's one of the best that ever played the game. I said, you got to learn about these guys. And he knows everything about every player. He's a smart kid, but it really has created a monster. You go in his room, he's got cards everywhere.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So, yeah.
So that's like an
That's very
appreciation
cool.
for
Yeah,
the
for sure.
people that came before, too.
Yeah, for sure.
That's great.
So he didn't get it with me when he goes with me and then somebody want my autograph. He didn't get it. You know, I could tell he'd look, what is this?
What? Who are you?
Now he gets it a little bit.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah. Wow.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, as you look back over all the things, the great stuff that we've talked about, and people are always going to remember number 54, Randy White, one of the greatest, not just for the Cowboys, but in the entire league. And I think, aren't you on that all 100 team? I think.
Top 100.
The top 100. Yeah, the NFL celebrates 100 years back in 2020, so it's been 104 years now. For you to be a member of that team, I mean, my gosh, doesn't get much better than that, Randy. Really.
No, it's a great honor, and I always, like I said earlier, I always share it with the guys I played with and my teammates.
Yeah.
But, that's a great honor.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, I just wondered, over and above that, you're in the Hall of Fame, you're just an All-American in college. What is it that you look back on and you're proudest of, and then what you would like Randy White's legacy to be? If I was to say Coach Landry, what would you tell me about Coach Landry? And then I'm kind of curious what you'd tell, about yourself. When I say Coach Landry, what did he mean to you?
What did Coach Landry mean to me?
Yeah.
Oh, he was a great leader. I learned a lot from Coach Landry. From day one, he would say, God, family, football. And, I always believed in God, but, I never, went fanatic on that.
Yeah.
And I wish I had done that earlier in my life. I'd have made some different decisions, and my life would have been a little easier in the different areas. So anybody listening, put God in your life, and life will get better.
Yeah.
So, but I forget to answer the question now, Scott.
No, that was it. But the other part of it is just as you've sat here with us talking about all the incredible things you've had a chance to be a part of, and all you've accomplished in your years from Super Bowl right on down. I just wondered what it is that you'd like your legacy to be. When somebody goes to the Hall of Fame out in Canton, Ohio, and they go, oh my gosh, look at. Here's Randy White, number 54, played for the Dallas Cowboys, All-American out of Maryland. How do you want people to perceive who you were and what you were all about? 50 years from now, what is it that you want your memory to be?
I don't, it's going to be whatever people want it to be.
Well, that's because you're so doggone humble that you'd give me that response. But I mean, still, you've got to be awfully proud of who you were, what you did, and who you are today. Well, you continue to make a difference in the lives of nonprofits. People need a helping hand. Randy White's always there. I just wondered what you want your memory to, your history to be looked upon as.
I just, somebody took his dad's advice. They said, if you're going to do it all the way. Don't do it halfway. Anybody can do it halfway. If you're going to do something, do it right. And pay attention to the little things. Because if you do the little things right, the big things will fall in place for you. And, that's what, if somebody reminds me that I was nice to people. That's, you know, the monster, the manster, you know, on the football field. Yeah. I don't care if you say I was not the nicest person you ever meet, but off the field, yeah, you know, I always tried to treat people right. I like kids. I like kids, and you asked me something here earlier about, you know, one thing here recently I want to mention is this opioid problem we have in our country. I got involved with that, and just create the awareness that, you know what, the problem is out there, and we have the saying, one pill can kill. So anybody listening here, don't take a chance. If you have a prescription with your name on it that the doctor gives you, okay, take the pill. But if you don't touch it, because it can kill you. And I went through that with a family member, my son-in-law. So, you know, you see what happens to the families. They're raised without a dad, and they have to get the old grandparents involved. I mean, it's different, but I'd like to, you know, just put that out there to create the awareness that, hey, there is a problem out there, and pay attention to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about the fact that you're doing that, and you are involved in nonprofits. What else are you doing today?
Oh, Scott, I don't know. I was down in Temple, Texas, doing an auction for McLean's the other night.
Really?
Were you really?
Oh, yeah. So I stayed busy doing different things. Yeah.
Life is good.
Life is good. Life is good.
That's great. Yeah. You know,
go ahead. Did you have?
Well, you know, you did some advertising, you know, you at some point, you know, with different products and things like that. Is that something you still do now? Or are you still engaged in any of that?
Well, I do like Dodge dealership in McKinney.
Oh, okay. So you're still doing some.
I still do some of that stuff.
Oh, okay.
Not
I
as
think
much
that would be
as I
fun.
used to, but I still do. They still remember me in some spots. So.
Well, we've got 2 minutes
good.
left. 2 minutes left.
2 minutes.
What's the message you want to share with everybody that's been listening to all the incredible things you've shared with us? What's any message you want to share to them about how they should live their life, or what they should do every day, or watch the Cowboys, or pull for this, or do that? What comes to mind? Just a closing thought.
Well, I kind of said it a minute ago.
That's what I wondered. Yeah, right.
You know,
be smart.
If you're going to do something, do it right. And choices, it's all about choices in your life. And you make the right choices. It doesn't guarantee your success, but you make the wrong choices and things definitely aren't going to go right. And pay attention to the little things. If you get in the habit of doing the little things right, making your bed, picking a piece of paper on the floor up, all those little things, then when the big things come into place, you'll be ready for them. And you'll make the right decision. And if you put God in your life, now you really got things going the right way. You know, I could tell Coach Landry the one moment that I shared with him, the year after we won the Super Bowl, we were playing the Denver Broncos up in Denver. My dad died the night before the game. I remember coming out, the defense got introduced. I shook Coach Landry's hand. I had tears in my eyes, and he had tears in his eyes. And he told me, he said, Randy, you take as much time as you need with your family. And that, to me, defined Coach Landry. Forget about football. Forget about everything else. You take care of your family. So he was a special person. Yeah. Great football coach, but a great teacher of life also, and a big inspiration for me.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm sure that everybody that's listening to this today, been a part of this today, feels the same way about you. You're a good man, great football player, one of the best of all time, literally. But just as importantly, more importantly, you're a heck of a gentleman. You're a heck of a good guy, Randy. I've known you forever, and I've always had utmost respect, and I'm sure you feel the same way about Randy.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, just incredible. So thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of this.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you,
enjoyed
Randy.
it.
Yeah, good
Y'all
man.
were great.
Yep. Randy White, number 54, the Manster, Hall of Famer, and one of the nicest guys you're ever going to come across. So thanks again, Randy. And so for Margie and Marnie, I'm Scott. Till next time, for Journey Through Sports and Life, stay safe, be well, and be kind.